My name is Warren, and I'm sitting here at 71 years old in what used to be just my study, watching the autumn leaves drift past the window. Now it's our study, mine and Sylvia's. Even after 3 years, that word our still catches in my throat, equal parts miracle and disbelief. I never imagined I'd use it again. Not like this, not at this stage of life. But let me start where this really begins, because it doesn't start with Sylvia. It starts with dust. For 14 years after my wife Lorraine died, dust became my companion. Not metaphorical dust, actual dust that accumulated on picture frames, on books, on the piano no one played anymore. I'd see it in the slanting afternoon light and think, I should clean that. But the thought would dissolve before it became action. What was the point? There was no one to see it, no one to care. Lorraine died at 52, breast cancer. We'd had 3 years from diagnosis to the end. 3 years of treatments and hope and crushing disappointments. 3 years of watching the woman I'd loved since we were both 23 slowly disappear. Her body betraying her cell by cell. When she finally died, there was a part of me that felt relief, and I've carried the guilt of that relief ever since. The first year is a blur of numbness. I remember my brother Emmett flying in from Phoenix, staying for a month, trying to get me to eat, to shower, to do anything besides sit in Lorraine's chair and stare at nothing. I remember my daughter Veronica coming every day after work, her face drawn with worry. I remember my son Marcus calling from Seattle, his voice tight with helplessness, asking what he could do. There was nothing anyone could do. I was 57 when Lorraine died. By the time I turned 70, I had constructed what looked from the outside like a functional life. I'd returned to my accounting practice, though I'd scaled back to part-time. I had a weekly poker game with 3 other widowers. I played golf on Thursdays. I visited Veronica and her husband every other Sunday. Played with my grandchildren, Jonah, 10, and Stella, 7. I video called Marcus in Seattle every weekend. I kept myself occupied. But occupied is not the same as alive. I was a ghost haunting my own existence, going through motions that had lost all meaning. I ate because the body required fuel. I slept because consciousness became exhausting. I existed because dying seemed like too much effort. The thing about prolonged grief that no one mentions is how it becomes comfortable. You adjust to its weight the way your eyes adjust to darkness. After a while, you can't remember what light looked like. I couldn't remember what it felt like to want something, to anticipate tomorrow, to care about anything beyond the next obligation on my calendar. The change began on a Tuesday morning in March, 3 weeks after my 70th birthday. I was making coffee when Veronica showed up unannounced. She let herself in with her key, and I knew immediately from her expression that this wasn't a casual visit. "Dad," she said, setting her purse on the counter with the deliberate care of someone preparing for battle. "We need to talk." My stomach tightened. Those 4 words, nothing good ever followed them. "Is everyone okay? The kids? Adrian?" "Everyone's fine. This is about you." I turned back to the coffee maker. "I'm fine too." "No, Dad, you're not." She came to stand beside me, her hand on my arm, forcing me to look at her. "When's the last time you were actually happy? Not just getting through the day, but genuinely happy?" I opened my mouth to protest, but she cut me off. Don't tell me you're fine. Don't tell me this is just how life is now. You've been in suspended animation for 14 years. You go to work, you play poker, you visit us, but you're not present. You're not here. Mom's been gone longer than some marriages last, and you're still living like she died yesterday. What do you expect me to do? The words came out sharper than I intended. She was my wife for 29 years, Veronica. You don't just move on from that. I'm not asking you to forget Mom. I loved her too. But Dad, loving Mom doesn't mean you have to stop living. She wouldn't want this for you. I laughed bitterly. You don't know what she'd want. Actually, I do. Veronica pulled out her phone, scrolled through it, then handed it to me. On the screen was a photo of a handwritten letter. I found this in Mom's things after she died. I've been waiting for the right time to show you. My hands shook as I read Lorraine's familiar handwriting. My darling Warren, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I have to leave you. I'm sorry for the pain I know you're feeling. But Warren, I need you to promise me something. Don't let grief consume you. Don't spend whatever years you have left locked away in mourning. I want you to live, truly live. And if you find someone who makes you happy, someone who reminds you what joy feels like, don't you dare feel guilty about it. Love doesn't diminish love. Your heart is big enough for all of it. Promise me you'll try to be happy again. Promise me you'll keep living. All my love, always, Lorraine. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Veronica wrapped her arms around me as I sobbed, really sobbed, for the first time in years. She wanted you to be happy, Dad, Veronica said softly. So do I. So does Marcus. You've done your mourning. Now it's time to try living again. I don't even know how anymore. Then learn. Take a class. Join a group. Try something new. Just try. It took me 2 months to act on Veronica's words. 2 months of that letter sitting on my nightstand, Lorraine's handwriting a daily reminder and rebuke. Finally, on a humid May afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I joined a dating site. The site was called Autumn Connections, designed for people over 60. Even the name made me want to close my laptop. Was I really autumn now? Past my prime? Heading toward winter? But I forced myself to fill out the profile anyway. Writing about myself felt like an exercise in futility. What could a 70-year-old widowed accountant possibly say that would interest anyone? I stared at the blank screen for an hour before typing. Widower of 14 years. Retired accountant trying to remember how to be a person instead of a ghost. I play golf badly, cook worse, and can beat anyone at poker. I have 2 wonderful adult children and 2 grandchildren who tolerate my terrible jokes. I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Maybe just someone who understands that starting over at 70 feels both terrifying and necessary. I promise I'm more interesting than this profile suggests. Or maybe I'm not. Only one way to find out. For my photo, I used one Veronica had taken at Stella's birthday party. Me in the backyard, genuinely smiling at something Jonah had said. I looked my age. Thinning gray hair, lines around my eyes, the slight paunch of a man who'd stopped caring about his appearance years ago. No filters, no lies. I stared at the submit button for 20 minutes before clicking it. The responses began within hours, and they were enlightening in the worst way. There was Beatrice, 68, whose opening message was, "You look like you have a good pension. I need financial security." There was Margaret, 72, who sent me a novel-length essay about her 5 cats and how any potential partner would need to accept that the cats came first. There was Dolores, 65, who seemed lovely until our phone call revealed she was looking for a father figure for her 40-year-old unemployed son. My first actual date was with Patricia. She was 69, a retired nurse with kind eyes in her profile photo. We met at a diner near the park on a Saturday morning. I arrived 15 minutes early, changed my shirt in the car, and seriously considered driving away. Only the thought of having to tell Veronica I'd chickened out kept me there. Patricia arrived right on time. She was exactly as her photo suggested. Warm, pleasant, well-dressed. We shook hands and ordered coffee. The conversation was painful in its politeness. We discussed our children. She had 3. Our former careers. She'd worked in pediatrics. Our hobbies. She enjoyed knitting. She was a morning person. I was not. She loved musicals. I found them baffling. She preferred the beach. I preferred the mountains. By the end of breakfast, I knew with certainty that while Patricia was a perfectly nice person, there was no spark, no connection. Just two lonely people making small talk. Would you like to see each other again? She asked hopefully as we stood to leave. I thought about lying, about being polite. Then I thought about my time, about how precious it was at this age. You're a lovely person, Patricia, but I don't think we're quite right for each other. I wish you all the best. She looked disappointed, but not surprised. I appreciate your honesty. Good luck, Warren. I drove home feeling defeated. Was this what dating was at 70? Polite interviews with incompatible strangers? Maybe Veronica was wrong. Maybe some people were meant to spend their remaining years alone. I went on 5 more dates over the next 3 months, each one a variation on the same theme. Nice people, no connection, mutual disappointment. I was ready to delete my profile when I received a message that was different from all the others. It read, "Dear Warren, I noticed in your profile that you mentioned playing golf badly. I've been playing golf badly for 40 years, and I like to think I've elevated it to an art form. My drives go sideways, my putts curve in physically impossible directions, and I once hit a ball backward. I'm writing because your profile suggests someone who's honest about where they are in life, and I appreciate that more than I can say. I'm not good at these dating sites. I'm rusty at conversation. I overthink every word. I'm probably too old to be starting this kind of thing. But the alternative, spending whatever years I have left alone out of fear, seems worse. If you'd be willing to meet a perpetually confused golfer for coffee, or perhaps a walk somewhere quiet, I'd be grateful for the company. If not, I wish you well in your search. Sincerely, Sylvia." I read the message 4 times. There was something about it, a self-awareness, a vulnerability. That felt genuine. I clicked on her profile. Sylvia was 67, a retired librarian with silver hair styled in a short, practical cut and eyes that seemed to hold both sadness and humor. Her profile photo showed her sitting on a bench with an open book, reading glasses perched on her nose. Her profile read, "Widow of 6 years, still learning who I am in this new life. I spend my days reading everything I can get my hands on, volunteering at the animal shelter, and trying to convince myself that it's okay to take up space in the world again. My son says I've become a hermit. He's not wrong. I'm looking for someone who doesn't mind that I quote books constantly, who won't judge me for talking to dogs in silly voices, who understands that grief doesn't have an expiration date. Someone who knows that at our age, we all carry scars, and that's part of what makes us interesting." I sat there reading and rereading her words. Then I replied, "Dear Sylvia, your golf game sounds remarkably similar to mine. Perhaps we could compare our terrible techniques over that coffee you mentioned. There's a park near the river with walking paths and benches, good for both conversation and comfortable silences. Fair warning, I'm also rusty at conversation and tend to say exactly the wrong thing at the wrong time. Maybe we can be awkward together. Warren." Her response came within the hour. "The park sounds perfect. Sunday at 3 p.m.? I'll be the one carrying a book like a security blanket." Sunday arrived with unseasonably cool weather for June. I changed my outfit 5 times before settling on khakis and a blue polo shirt that Veronica had bought me last Christmas, claiming it brought out my eyes. I arrived at the park entrance at 2:50 p.m. Sylvia was already there, standing by a large oak tree, indeed holding a book. She was shorter than I'd expected, dressed in a simple green dress and comfortable shoes. When she saw me approaching, her face broke into a nervous smile. "Warren? Sylvia, it's nice to meet you." We shook hands. Hers was cool and dry, and stood there for an awkward moment. 2 people past 60 trying to remember how dating worked. "Should we walk?" she suggested. "Yes, good idea." We started down the path, neither of us speaking for the first few minutes. It should have been uncomfortable, but somehow it wasn't. It felt like we were both gathering our courage, preparing for something important. So, I finally said, "Tell me about the book." She held it up. Middlemarch, George Eliot. I've read it at least 10 times, but it feels different every time I come back to it. What changes? Me, I suppose. When I first read it in college, I thought Dorothea was naive and foolish. Now, I see her as brave and idealistic, even if it led her into mistakes. I understand her better now that I've made my own mistakes. What kind of mistakes? She was quiet for a moment. The kind where you realize you spent years being who you thought you should be instead of who you actually are. The kind where you wake up one day and realize you've forgotten how to want things for yourself. I understood that more than I could say. How long were you married? 32 years. His name was Gerald. Heart attack 6 years ago. He was 63, and we were supposed to be entering retirement together. We had plans. Her voice caught slightly. So many plans. I'm sorry. Thank you. And your wife? Lorraine. Cancer. 14 years ago. She was 52. That's young. Too young. We were supposed to grow old together. Instead, I've just grown old. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. Is that what you think you've been doing? Just growing old? Isn't it? Maybe, or maybe you've been surviving. That counts for something. We walked in silence again, but this time it felt comfortable, companionable. We stopped at a bench overlooking a small pond, and Sylvia sat down, patting the space beside her. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said once I'd sat down. "Of course. Why now? After 14 years, why did you decide to try this now?" I told her about Veronica's intervention, about Lorraine's letter, about the realization that I'd been a ghost for over a decade. "I'm 70 years old. I finished. If I'm going to have another 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years, do I want to spend them all alone?" And the answer was no. But I'm terrified. Of what? Everything. Of being hurt again. Of my body. I'm not who I was. Of looking foolish. Of betraying Lorraine somehow. Even though I know intellectually that's not how it works. She nodded slowly. I understand all of that. Every single fear. Gerald and I had a complicated marriage. I loved him, but I also lost myself in caring for him. He had diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety. I spent 30 years managing his health, his moods, his needs. After he died, I felt guilty for feeling relieved. Isn't that terrible, to feel relieved that your husband is dead? It's not terrible. It's honest. My son Derek, he thinks I should be over it by now. 6 years is long enough, he says. But grief isn't something you get over. You just learn to carry it differently. Exactly. People who haven't experienced it don't understand that it changes shape, but never really goes away. We talked for 3 hours, sitting on that bench as the afternoon turned to evening. She told me about her 30 years as a librarian, about the joy of connecting readers with books, about her volunteer work at the animal shelter, where she'd fallen in love with a 3-legged dog named Biscuit, about Derek, who is an engineer in Boston and called every Thursday evening like clockwork. I told her about my accounting career, about how numbers made sense in a way people often didn't, about Veronica and Marcus, about my grandchildren who made me laugh despite myself, about the poker game with other widowers where we never talked about our wives. But their absence hung over every hand we played. "Why did you message me?" I asked as the sun began to set. "Out of all the profiles, why mine?" "Because you admitted you didn't know what you were looking for? Most profiles are so certain, looking for a partner for travel, for companionship, for whatever. But you were honest about being lost. That resonated with me." "I'm very lost," I admitted. "Me too. Maybe we can be lost together and see where we end up." I looked at her. This woman I'd just met, who somehow didn't feel like a stranger, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. "Would you like to have dinner with me?" I asked. "Not now. I know this is probably enough for today. But maybe next week? I'd like that very much, Warren. Our second meeting was dinner at a quiet Thai restaurant. Our third was a visit to the art museum. Our fourth was an afternoon at a used bookstore where we both got carried away and bought far too many books. With each meeting, the layers peeled back. We talked about our marriages, not just the losses, but the complexities. I told Sylvia that while I love Lorraine deeply, toward the end, I'd also felt helpless and inadequate, unable to fix what was unfixable. Sylvia told me that she'd loved Gerald, but had also felt trapped by his constant need for caretaking, that she'd sometimes fantasized about what it would be like to just think about herself for once. I felt so guilty about those thoughts, she said during one of our walks. What kind of wife resents caring for her sick husband? The kind who's also human. You can love someone and still find the burden heavy. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Gerald used to say I was the strong one, that he didn't know what he'd do without me. But I didn't want to be the strong one all the time. I wanted someone to take care of me sometimes too. Did you tell him that? No. How could I? He was sick. He needed me. My needs seemed selfish in comparison. But they weren't. They were just needs. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. You understand. Most people don't understand. These conversations, raw and honest, created an intimacy that surprised both of us. We were building something real, brick by brick, truth by truth. But there was also joy. Sylvia had a dry sense of humor that caught me off guard. She'd make observations about people and situations that were hilariously accurate. She sent me photos of Biscuit doing ridiculous things at the shelter. She left little notes in the books she lent me, comments and reactions in the margins that made me feel like we were having a conversation across pages. And slowly, carefully, we began to touch. First, my hand on her elbow, helping her over uneven ground, then holding hands during our walks, then my arm around her shoulders during a movie, each touch deliberate, respectful, asking permission without words. The first time I kissed her, we were standing in front of her apartment building after dinner. It had been 4 months since our first meeting, and I'd walked her home. Thank you for dinner, she said, fumbling with her keys. Sylvia, I said softly, my hand gentle on her arm. Can I kiss you? ...
She looked up at me, surprise and hope mixing in her expression. She nodded. I kissed her gently, carefully, as if she might disappear. She kissed me back, her hand coming up to rest against my chest. When we pulled apart, I rested my forehead against hers. I'm falling for you. I need you to know that. I'm trying not to rush you, but I want to be honest. Her eyes were bright with tears. I'm falling for you too, and it terrifies me. We can be terrified together. Of course, it wasn't all smooth. Real life never is. Our first major conflict came about 2 months later. Sylvia had mentioned casually that Derek was coming to visit for Thanksgiving and wanted to meet me. The idea filled me with panic. Meeting her son felt official, permanent, real in a way that scared me. I'm not sure I'm ready for that, I told her over coffee one morning. Ready for what? Meeting my son? Ready for this to be that serious? She set down her cup carefully. Warren, we've been seeing each other for 6 months. We see each other 3 or 4 times a week. We talk every night. How is this not serious? I don't want to move too fast. Too fast? Warren, we're 70 and 67. We don't have time to move slow. If this is just casual for you, I need to know that now. It's not casual. I care about you deeply. I'm just scared. Yes, I know. So am I. But Warren, at some point we have to decide if we're going to move forward or stay frozen in fear. I can't do frozen anymore. I did that for 6 years after Gerald died. We sat in tense silence. Finally, I said, "You're right. I'm being a coward. I'd like to meet Derek." Thanksgiving was awkward at first. Derek was protective of his mother, asking me pointed questions about my intentions and my finances. But Sylvia intervened, telling him gently but firmly that, while she appreciated his concern, she was capable of making her own decisions. By the end of the evening, Derek had softened. "You make her happy," he told me as we were clearing dishes. "I haven't seen her this alive in years. Just don't hurt her, okay? I'll do my best," I promised. The real turning point came 8 months into our relationship. I woke up one morning with crushing chest pain. Veronica found me and called an ambulance. At the hospital, they determined I'd had a moderate heart attack. They performed an angioplasty and put me on a regimen of medications and lifestyle changes. Sylvia was there within an hour of Veronica calling her. When I saw her in the waiting room, pale and scared, I realized how much I'd come to need her. "Don't you dare die on me, Warren," she said, holding my hand tightly. "Not now, not when I've just found you." "I'm not planning on it," I said weakly. But the heart attack forced conversations we'd been avoiding. About health, about mortality, about what we were building and why. "I can't do this if you're going to shut me out," Sylvia said the day I came home from the hospital. When Veronica called me, I realized I didn't know if I had the right to be there. We've been together for 8 months, but we've never defined what this is. Are you my boyfriend? My partner? My friend who I happen to kiss? I need to know, Warren, because if something happens to you, I need to know where I stand. "What do you want us to be?" I asked. "I want to be the person you call when you're scared. I want to be the one who gets to sit in the hospital waiting room. I want to be more than just someone you see a few times a week. I want—" She took a breath. "I want us to build a life together, whatever that looks like. Even knowing that my heart is damaged, that this might happen again, that I might not be around as long as we'd hope? Yes, even knowing all of that. Warren, we're both old enough to know that nothing is guaranteed. You could die tomorrow, or I could. Or we could both live to be 95. We don't get guarantees at any age, but especially not at ours. The question isn't whether we'll lose each other eventually. That's certain. The question is whether the time we have together is worth the inevitable pain of loss. And for me, the answer is yes." I pulled her into my arms, feeling her shake against me. "For me too," I whispered. "Yes. After my heart attack, something shifted in me. I realized I'd been holding back, one foot still in the past, protecting myself from full investment. But the heart attack reminded me that I wasn't promised tomorrow, that caution wasn't the same as safety. 6 months after my heart attack, on a quiet evening in September, I asked Sylvia to marry me. We were having dinner at her apartment. She'd cooked pasta and we'd shared a bottle of wine. As we sat on her couch afterward, I took her hand. "Sylvia, I've been thinking about what we're building here, about what I want for however much time I have left." "That sounds ominous," she said with a nervous laugh. "No, it's the opposite. I want to stop dividing my life into your space and my space. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to stop saying goodbye at the end of every evening. I took a breath. "I want to marry you, if you'll have me." Her eyes filled with tears. "Warren, we're old. People will think we're crazy." "Probably. Does that matter to you?" "No," she admitted. "But marriage is complicated. There's finances, estates. Derek and Veronica and Marcus might have opinions about their inheritances, healthcare decisions. It's not simple at our age. Nothing worth having is simple. But the question I'm asking is simpler than all that. Do you want to spend whatever time we have left together, officially and permanently?" She was quiet for a long moment, and I felt my heart racing, my damaged, unreliable heart that might give out at any moment, but was still capable of hope. "Yes," she finally said. "Yes, Warren, I do." I pulled out a small box containing a simple gold band with 3 small sapphires. Lorraine's ring was diamonds. I wanted this to be ours, something new. She slipped it on, admiring how it caught the light. "It's perfect. We married 4 months later in a simple ceremony in Veronica's backyard. Derek walked his mother down the aisle. Marcus stood as my best man. Both our families were there, along with a small group of friends. I wore the suit I'd bought for Veronica's wedding 20 years ago, slightly tight in the waist now. Sylvia wore an elegant lavender dress that Derek's wife had helped her choose. Instead of traditional vows, we each spoke from the heart. Sylvia went first. Warren, you taught me that it's possible to start again when you thought the story was over. You showed me that it's never too late to choose happiness, to be brave, to open yourself to love even when it terrifies you. I promise to be honest with you, to be patient with you, to face whatever comes alongside you. I promise to appreciate every ordinary moment we share because I know now how precious and fleeting they are. Today and every day after, I choose you. My turn. Sylvia, you reminded me what it feels like to be alive. You showed me that I could honor what I had with Lorraine and still build something new with you. I promise to be vulnerable with you, to not let fear keep us from truly living. I promise to value every moment we have together, however many or few. I promise to love you with clear eyes, knowing the risks, and choosing you anyway. Today and always, I choose you. There wasn't a dry eye in the yard, including ours. We've been married for 3 years now, and life at 71 looks nothing like I imagined when I was younger. We live in Sylvia's apartment, which has better light and fewer memories. My house we sold, using the proceeds to set up trusts for our children and to fund a scholarship for library science students in Gerald and Lorraine's names. Our days have a rhythm. We wake early, Sylvia's influence, and have breakfast together while reading. Some mornings, we walk in the park. Others, we simply sit in comfortable silence, her reading and me doing crossword puzzles. I've started volunteering at the animal shelter with Sylvia, even though I was never really a pet person. But watching her with the animals, seeing her gentleness and patience, makes me fall in love with her all over again. We ended up adopting Biscuit, the 3-legged dog. He sleeps at the foot of our bed and has become my constant companion. We have dinner with Veronica's family every other week. Marcus visits twice a year. And we started going to Boston annually to visit Derek. Our children have become friends, which feels like an unexpected gift. We've traveled, carefully accounting for my heart condition and Sylvia's arthritis. We spent 2 weeks in Ireland last spring, visiting libraries and bookshops and pubs, moving slowly through small towns and green landscapes. We're planning a trip to New England next fall to see the leaves. We've also faced challenges. I had another health scare last winter, a minor stroke that thankfully left no permanent damage, but scared us both. Sylvia developed cataracts and needed surgery. We're both slowing down, needing more rest, requiring more help than we'd like to admit. But we face it together. We've had the difficult conversations about what we want if one of us develops dementia, about end-of-life care, about how to handle medical crises. We've updated our wills to include each other while protecting our children's interests. We have healthcare proxies and advance directives. It's not romantic, but it's necessary, and it's an act of love. We've also learned to argue constructively. At our age, we don't have time for grudges. When we disagree about everything from politics to whether Biscuit should be allowed on the furniture, we talk it through. We apologize quickly. We remember that our time together is too precious to waste on anger. And there's joy, so much unexpected joy. I've taken up baking, producing increasingly ambitious and occasionally inedible creations. Sylvia has started writing book reviews for an online magazine. We host monthly book club meetings at our apartment. We've made new friends, couples our age who are also navigating late-life relationships. Last month, for my 71st birthday, Sylvia organized a surprise party in the park where we first met. All our children and grandchildren were there, along with our friends. At one point, I stood on the edge of the gathering, watching Sylvia telling a story to my grandchildren, making them laugh. and I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Veronica came to stand beside me. "You look happy, Dad." "I am. I really, truly am. Mom would be happy for you." I turned to her, surprised. "You think so?" "I know so. I read you her letter, remember? She wanted this for you. She'd like Sylvia. She'd probably lend her all her books and never get them back." We both laughed through tears. So here I am at 71, married to a woman I didn't know existed 4 years ago, living a life I couldn't have imagined when I was drowning in grief at 57. People ask me sometimes, other widowers, other people our age who are alone, what it's like finding love after 70. They ask with a mixture of hope and skepticism, as if I've discovered some secret, and I tell them the truth. It's terrifying and wonderful and complicated and worth it. Here's what I've learned about love at this age. First, you're not too old. Society tells us that romance ends at a certain point, that past 65 or 70, we should settle for comfortable solitude or companionship devoid of passion. This is a lie. Your heart doesn't retire. Your capacity for deep connection doesn't expire. It changes, certainly. It deepens with the wisdom of years lived, but it doesn't disappear. Don't let anyone convince you that wanting love at our age is foolish. Second, loving again doesn't betray the past. I worried endlessly that loving Sylvia meant I loved Lorraine less, but I've learned that the heart expands. It doesn't replace. I still love Lorraine. I think about her often, but I also love Sylvia. These loves don't compete. They coexist, each valid and precious in its own way. Third, honesty is everything. At our age, we don't have time for games. If you're scared, say so. If something matters to you, speak up. Sylvia and I built our relationship on radical honesty about our fears, our health, our pasts, our insecurities. This created trust that has sustained us through every challenge. Fourth, accept that loss is inevitable. When you love at 70, you love knowing time is limited. One of us will die first. One of us will grieve again. This knowledge, while painful, makes every moment more precious. We don't take each other for granted. We appreciate what we have while we have it. Fifth, your body is not your enemy. I was terrified of physical intimacy, convinced my aging body would be repulsive. But Sylvia sees my body as evidence of a life fully lived. Every scar, every wrinkle, every imperfection tells a story. Find someone who sees you with loving eyes. Sixth, practical conversations are love. Discussing wills, healthcare directives, end-of-life wishes, these aren't morbid. They're how we take care of each other at this stage of life. Don't avoid the hard conversations. They're acts of love. Seventh, your family will need time. My children struggled initially with me remarrying. Give them grace, but don't let their discomfort stop you from living your life. They're processing their own feelings. That's valid. But so is your right to happiness. Eighth, don't settle. I could have settled for any of those early dates, perfectly nice people who would have provided companionship. But I'm grateful I waited for a real connection. At our age, we don't have time to waste on fine or adequate. Find someone who excites you, who challenges and comforts you in equal measure. Ninth, embrace vulnerability. It's terrifying to open your heart after loss, to risk being hurt again when you thought you were done with such risks. But vulnerability is where real intimacy lives. Sylvia and I are vulnerable with each other every day, about our fears, our health concerns, our needs, our bodies. That vulnerability creates true connection. 10th, focus on quality over quantity. We don't know if we have 5 years or 20, but we've chosen to make whatever time we have count. We don't waste days on petty arguments. We say, "I love you" often. We take the trips we might not have time for later. We live intentionally. Finally, it's worth it. All of it. The fear, the vulnerability, the risk, the inevitable pain that will come. It's worth it. I would rather have whatever years I get with Sylvia, knowing how it will end, than have spent the rest of my life in the safe, numb existence I dote for myself. Love at our age is love with eyes wide open. It's love that knows exactly what it costs and chooses to pay the price anyway. This morning, I woke to Sylvia reading beside me in bed, her reading glasses sliding down her nose the way they always do. Biscuit was sprawled across our feet, snoring softly. Rain pattered against the window. "What are you reading?" I asked. She showed me the cover, a biography of Eleanor Roosevelt. Did you know she reinvented herself completely after Franklin's death? I didn't. She was 61 when he died, and she went on to have some of the most impactful years of her life. It's never too late to start again. My heart swelled. After 3 years of marriage, she's still teaching me things, still showing me new perspectives. "What do you have planned today?" she asked, closing the book. "I thought I'd take Biscuit to the park if the rain stops. You have book club tonight, right?" "Yes, we're discussing Middlemarch again. I never get tired of it. Such ordinary plans, such a mundane conversation, and yet I felt profound contentment. "Sylvia," I said, taking her hand, "do you ever think about how different our lives would be if we hadn't taken the risk?" "All the time," she admitted. "I think about how close I came to not joining that dating site, how I almost deleted my profile after the first week, how terrifying it was to meet you that first day. Me too. I almost canceled our meeting 3 times. Thank goodness we were both brave enough to show up scared." She moved closer, and we lay there in comfortable silence, Biscuit snoring providing a gentle soundtrack. "Warren," Sylvia said after a while, "thank you." "For what?" "For giving me these years, for taking the risk, for choosing to live instead of just exist, for being brave enough to love again after Lorraine." I kissed her softly. "Thank you for the same, for not letting me stay a ghost." If you're reading this and you're 65 or 70 or 75 or 80, and you think your chance for love is past, I'm here to tell you it hasn't. If you're widowed or divorced or never married, and you think you're too old to start now, you're not. If you're lonely, if you're afraid, if you think the interesting chapters of your life are behind you, they're not. There's still adventures waiting, still joy to be discovered, still love to be found and given. Yes, it's scary. Yes, there are risks. Yes, you might get hurt. But the alternative, spending whatever years you have left protecting a heart that's meant to be used, that's the real tragedy. I'm not saying everyone needs to be partnered to be happy. Some people thrive in solitude, and that's valid and beautiful too. But if you want connection, if you long for companionship, if you miss the intimacy of sharing your life with someone, don't let fear or age or societal expectations stop you. Your life is not over. Your story is not finished. You are still here, still alive, still capable of growth and change and love. Sylvia and I don't know how many more years we have. My heart could fail tomorrow. She could have a stroke next week. We could both live to be 95. We simply don't know. But we know this. We're grateful for every day we have together. We appreciate the ordinary moments, morning coffee, evening walks, quiet conversations, because we understand how precious and fleeting they are. We know that love at our age is different from young love. It's deeper, richer, more intentional. It's love built on a foundation of loss and survival and hard-won wisdom. It's love that knows its own fragility and chooses to bloom anyway. We know that we'll face more challenges, health scares, losses, the inevitable decline that comes with aging. But we'll face them together, supporting each other, being honest with each other, appreciating whatever time we have. And most importantly, we know that choosing love, messy, scary, vulnerable, beautiful love, was the right choice. It brought us back to life. It reminded us that we're still here, still capable of joy and connection and hope. So if you're wondering whether it's too late for you, whether you're too old for new beginnings, whether love has passed you by, I'm here to tell you, it's not too late. You're not too old. Love is still possible. You just have to be brave enough to try. My name is Warren. I'm 71 years old, and I'm deeply, gratefully, wonderfully in love. I found love when I thought the story was over, and it gave me back my life. If I can do it, so can you. The best chapter might still be waiting to be written. All you have to do is turn the page. I'm writing this on my 76th birthday, sitting in our study, the one that used to be just Sylvia's but has become truly ours over the past 5 years. She's in the other room on a video call with Derek and his family, and I can hear her laughing at something her grandson said. 5 years. When we started this journey, I wasn't sure we'd have 5 months, let alone 5 years. But here we are, still together, still choosing each other every day. It hasn't been easy. 2 years ago, I had another heart attack, more serious this time. I spent a week in the hospital, and there were moments when both Sylvia and I thought this might be it. But I'm stubborn, and apparently my heart is too. I survived, though with more restrictions, more medications, more careful monitoring. Last year, Sylvia was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. The same disease that took Lorraine. But Sylvia's was caught early. She had surgery and radiation, and as of her last checkup 3 months ago, she's cancer-free. Those months of treatment were some of the hardest of our marriage. I watched her go through the fear and pain and exhaustion, and I felt helpless all over again. But this time, I wasn't alone in my helplessness. We held each other through it. Our children have fully accepted our relationship now. Veronica and Derek have become close friends. They text each other regularly, comparing notes on how to manage their aging parents. Marcus and his partner visit from Seattle every few months, and they've started bringing their adopted daughter, our newest grandchild, with them. We've slowed down considerably. We no longer travel internationally. The last trip to England we planned never happened because of my health. But we've discovered that joy doesn't require airplane tickets. We take short trips to nearby towns, explore local museums, have picnics in the park when the weather allows. Biscuit is now 11, which is remarkable for a dog who was already 6 when we adopted him. He's slowed down too, spending most of his days sleeping in patches of sunlight. But he still pokes up when we reach for his leash, still insists on his evening walk, however short it's become. The 3 of us make quite a picture, I'm sure. 2 people in their mid-70s shuffling along with a 3-legged elderly dog. But we're together, and that's what matters. Our morning routine has become sacred. We wake early, neither of us sleeps as well as we used to. We have coffee together, read the paper, share whatever dreams we remember. Some mornings we talk for hours. Other mornings we sit in comfortable silence, just being present with each other. Sylvia still volunteers at the animal shelter, though only twice a week now instead of 4 times. I go with her sometimes, helping in whatever small ways I can. We've fostered 3 more dogs over the years, though we couldn't bear to give any of them up. So our 1-dog household has become a 4-dog household. Our apartment is chaotic and covered in dog hair, and I've never been happier. I've started writing, something I never imagined doing. Just memories, stories from my life, letters to my grandchildren about what I've learned. Sylvia encouraged me, said that everyone has a story worth telling. She's probably biased, but I found I enjoy it. This process of reflecting on a life that's been longer and richer than I ever expected. We've had to have more of those difficult conversations lately. My cardiologist has been frank about my prognosis. I'm living on borrowed time, he says, though he can't say how much time. Could be months, could be years. Sylvia and I have updated our end-of-life plans, made sure everything is in order. We've chosen to be buried together, in a plot between where Lorraine and Gerald are buried. It seemed right somehow, honoring all our loves. These conversations are hard, but they're also clarifying. They remind us not to waste the time we have. Last week, Sylvia told me she wanted to renew our vows. Not because the first ones weren't enough, she said, but because I want to say them again, knowing everything we know now. So yesterday, on my birthday, we stood in our living room with just our immediate family present, and we renewed our vows. Sylvia spoke first, tears streaming down her face. Warren, 5 years ago, I promised to love you for whatever time we had. I didn't know then what that would mean. The heart attacks, the cancer, the slow accumulation of health challenges that come with age. But I know now, and I would make the same promise again without hesitation. You've shown me that love doesn't diminish with time or hardship. It deepens. Every challenge we've faced has made me love you more, appreciate you more, value our time together more. I promise to love you for whatever time remains, whether that's days or months or years. I promise to be present with you, honest with you, brave with you. Today and always, I choose you. Then it was my turn. I'd written something down because I knew I'd cry and forget what I wanted to say. Sylvia, when I met you 8 years ago, I was a ghost. You brought me back to life. You taught me that it's never too late to start again, to be brave, to love with your whole heart even when you know it will break. These past 5 years haven't been easy. We've faced health scares, limitations, the reality of our aging bodies. But Sylvia, I wouldn't trade these difficult years with you for 100 easy years alone. You are my home, my comfort, my joy. I promise to appreciate every moment we have left. I promise to face whatever comes with honesty and grace. I promise to love you until my heart stops beating, which, given my history, could be any time, so I better say it often. I love you. Today and always, I choose you. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Even Marcus, who usually keeps his emotions contained, was openly crying. Veronica and Derek hugged each other. Our grandchildren watched with wide eyes, witnessing what love looks like when it's been tested and has survived. After everyone left, Sylvia and I sat together on the couch, exhausted but content. "Do you have any regrets?" she asked me. I thought about it carefully. Only one. That I waited so long. I wish I'd been brave enough to try sooner, to find you sooner. We could have had more years together. But would we have been ready? I don't think I was ready before I met you. I needed those years of solitude to figure out who I was without Gerald. Maybe you needed your years of grief too. Maybe you're right. Maybe we met exactly when we were supposed to. Do you ever think about what happens after? She asked quietly. After one of us is gone? All the time, I admitted. The rational part of me knows that you're younger, healthier, you'll probably outlive me. The thought of leaving you alone terrifies me. And the thought of losing you terrifies me. But Warren, we've given each other 5 beautiful years. If it ends tomorrow or 5 years from now, we've had this. We've had love and joy and companionship when we both thought those things were behind us. That's more than most people get. She was right, of course. She usually is. Promise me something, I said. If I go first, promise me you won't stop living. Don't spend years as a ghost like I did. Find joy. Spend time with Derek and the grandkids. Volunteer at the shelter. Read all the books. Live. Only if you promise me the same, she said. If I go first, you keep going. You keep writing, keep spending time with your family, keep taking care of our dogs. You live. I promise, I said, though I can't imagine any of it without you. You'll find a way. You're stronger than you think. We sat in silence for a while, holding hands, listening to the dogs snoring in various corners of the room. Sylvia? Yes? Thank you for saying yes, for taking a chance on a scared, lonely 70-year-old widower who didn't think he deserved another chance at happiness. Thank you for asking, for being brave enough to message me, to show up at the park, to let yourself love again. I don't know how much longer I have. My cardiologist's most recent assessment wasn't encouraging, but I'm not afraid anymore. Not like I was before Sylvia. Because I've learned that the length of time matters less than the quality of it. I've learned that 5 years of genuine happiness is worth more than 20 years of numb existence. I've learned that love at any age is worth the risk of pain. If this is my last birthday, my last week, my last month, I'm grateful. Grateful for Sylvia, for these years together, for the joy we've shared. Grateful for my children and grandchildren, for friends new and old, for the simple pleasures of morning coffee and evening walks and books and dogs. Grateful that I was brave enough, finally, to turn the page and start a new chapter when I thought the book was finished. To anyone reading this who thinks it's too late, who believes their story is over, it's not. As long as you're breathing, there's still time for new chapters, new adventures, new love. You just have to be willing to turn the page. My name is Warren. I'm 76 years old. I found love at 70, and it changed everything. It gave me back my life, my joy, my hope. It taught me that courage has no age limit, that hearts don't retire, that it's never too late to start again. Whatever time I have left, whether it's measured in days or months or years, I'll spend it loving Sylvia, appreciating every ordinary moment, being grateful for the unexpected gift of a second chance at happiness. And if you're still on the fence, still afraid, still convinced you're too old or it's too late, I'm here to tell you, be brave, take the risk, turn the page. Your next chapter might be your best one yet. Author's note from Warren added 6 months after the epilogue. I'm still here, still loving Sylvia, still grateful for every day. The doctors were wrong about my timeline, or maybe just pessimistic. My heart keeps beating, stubborn as ever. We celebrated Sylvia's 73rd birthday last week. We're planning a small trip to the coast next month. Nothing ambitious, just a few days in a quiet town by the ocean. Biscuit passed away 2 months ago, peacefully in his sleep. We buried him in the garden and planted roses over him. We still have our other 3 dogs who miss him as much as we do. I'm writing this to say we're still here, still choosing each other, still finding joy in ordinary moments. The story isn't over yet, and that's the beautiful, terrifying, wonderful truth about life. We never know when the last page will come. All we can do is make sure we're living fully on every page before it. Keep turning the pages. Keep being brave. Keep choosing love. It's worth it. Always. Warren.